the scariest bully in school, charges at the only black student in class and tries to drag her out forcefully in front of everyone, yelling, "She doesn't belong." Everyone watches, but she doesn't cry, doesn't run, doesn't flinch. Instead, something shocking happens that no one saw coming. Stay tuned. It was third period, social studies. The air in the classroom was thick, charged with the unspoken tension that follows the bell. Before we continue, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more powerful content like this. All eyes darted to the door when Imani Washington walked in. She was the only black student in the room, a fact that hung in the air like dust in a sunbeam. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her movements were deliberate, calm, and steady, like a deep river that knows its own strength. She moved past the rows of desks, past the faces that pretended not to stare, and sat down in her usual spot at the back. But something was wrong today. You could feel it. Across the room, Kyle Richter, the most feared kid in the school, turned his head. His jaw was clenched, his knuckles wide around the pen he was holding. Kyle was big, broad-shouldered, and fueled by a constant simmering anger. He had a reputation built on intimidation, and nobody dared to cross him. Imani, however, seemed completely unbothered by reputations. Mrs. Albright, their teacher, was sketching a map of ancient trade routes on the whiteboard. "Can anyone tell me the significance of this route?" she asked, her back to the class. Not a single hand went up. No one was looking at the map. All eyes were on Kyle. He wasn't looking at the board either. He was staring daggers right at Imani. With a sudden, violent motion, Kyle slammed his pen on the desk. Snap! It broke in two. His friend Jake leaned over, whispering, "Dude, relax." Kyle didn't relax. He stood up, the sound of his chair scraping against the floor echoing like a gunshot in the silent room. Imani looked up from her notebook, her expression unreadable. "Hey!" Kyle shouted, pointing a finger directly at her. "You don't belong here." The entire room held its breath. Mrs. Albright spun around. "Kyle, sit down." "She doesn't belong here," Kyle repeated, his voice louder, ignoring the teacher completely. "You're not one of us. You're not staying in our class." The room felt like a vacuum, all the air sucked out. Imani blinked once, her gaze unwavering, and said in a low, clear voice, "Sit down, Kyle." A humorless laugh escaped Kyle's lips. "Oh, you think you're some kind of tough girl?" He started marching toward her, a predator closing in. Mrs. Albright stepped in his path, but Kyle shoved past her as if she were a ghost. His heavy boots thudded against the linoleum. He looked like he was about to detonate. Imani didn't move an inch. He reached her desk, his eyes burning with rage. "What's your problem, huh? You think you're better than us?" She remained silent. He kicked the leg of her desk, making her books rattle. "Say something, ghetto girl," he snarled. Gasps rippled through the classroom. One girl covered her mouth in shock. Mrs. Albright stood frozen by the whiteboard. Jake whispered, "Man, you're going too far." Kyle was beyond reason. He leaned in close, his face just inches from hers. "You're not smart, you're not welcome, and you sure as hell don't belong in my classroom." Then he grabbed her arm. "You're leaving now," he yelled, and tried to drag her from her chair. That was the moment. That was the moment everything tilted on its axis. As Imani's chair screeched backward from the force of his pull, Kyle raised his other fist. He swung, fast and hard, but she was faster. Whoosh! She ducked under the punch, the air whistling where her head had been. In a single, fluid motion, she rose from her seat, seized his wrist, twisted it, and spun behind him, using his own momentum to flip him over her hip. The entire class watched, mouths agape, as Kyle Richter's body slammed onto the floor. Thump! Silence. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Imani stood over him, perfectly calm, as still as a lioness after a successful hunt. Then she did the most unexpected thing of all. She picked up her chair, placed it back in its spot, sat down, crossed her legs, and opened her notebook to continue her notes as if nothing had happened. "What just happened?" someone whispered from the front row. Kyle lay on the floor, groaning. Jake's jaw was on the floor. Dude, she flipped him like a ninja. A single, tentative clap came from the side of the room, then another, and then the whole class erupted in applause, loud and echoing like a sudden thunderstorm. Mrs. Albright finally snapped out of her shock and grabbed the classroom phone. "I need security to room 214, now." Moments later, 2 school guards burst in. They took in the scene, Kyle on the floor, Imani sitting calmly at her desk. "Take him," Mrs. Albright said, her voice shaking but firm. "What?" No exclamation mark, Kyle shouted, scrambling to get up. "She attacked me." "No," Mrs. Albright said coldly. "You attacked her. We all saw it." The guards hauled Kyle to his feet. "Let go of me. She's the problem. She's not like us." "Enough," one of the guards snapped. Kyle kept yelling his nonsense as they dragged him out of the room, but this time no one was on his side, not even Jake. As the door slammed shut, the atmosphere in the room changed. It was lighter, safer. Imani didn't look up, but she could feel every eye on her, not with fear or pity, but with a new profound respect. After class, she was called to the principal's office. Mr. Davies, a man with tired eyes and a kind face, was waiting. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," Imani said. "Kyle's parents are on their way. We're reviewing the security footage, but from the witness statements, it's clear what happened." She just nodded. "I didn't start it." "I know," he said. Then he leaned forward, a curious glint in his eye. "Where did you learn a move like that?" For the first time, a small smile touched her lips. "My dad. He's a Marine." Mr. Davies raised his eyebrows. "That explains a lot." The next day, something strange happened. When Imani walked into class, students shifted their bags and moved their chairs to give her more space. Jake, Kyle's former friend, walked up to her before the bell. He didn't say sorry, but he gave her a quick, respectful nod. That nod spoke volumes. Even Mrs. Albright offered her a quiet, knowing smile, but Imani didn't need their applause or their approval. She had never cared about being popular. She only cared about surviving, about holding her own in a place that had felt unwelcoming from the moment she arrived. She had worked twice as hard, been twice as quiet, all to avoid the kind of attention she just received. But now, they knew better. The next afternoon, an announcement came over the school's intercom. Kyle Richter has been expelled. A wave of whispers swept through the hallways. People looked around, and some looked at Imani. She just kept walking, her back straight, her head held high. Just before the last bell, she sat in her usual seat, by the window at the back of the room, enjoying the peace. That is, until someone new walked in. a girl with a defiant smirk, a black leather jacket, and eyes that were full of trouble. She scanned the room, her gaze landing on Imani. She nodded once, a gesture that was anything but friendly, and sat one row over. The storm wasn't over. It had only just begun. The bell rang again. Math class, same room, same teacher, same back seat. Imani was already there, calm as ever. Then the door swung open, and in walked Brianna Richter, new student, long dark hair, gold hoop earrings, and boots that hit the floor like a challenge. She didn't smile. She looked straight at Imani, walked past several empty seats, and took the one right next to her. She crossed her arms, her silence more menacing than any shout. The air in the room grew sharp again. Imani could feel it. Brianna wasn't like Kyle. She wasn't loud or explosive. She was smarter, more calculating, and that made her infinitely more dangerous. During the lesson, Brianna leaned in and whispered, "You think you're safe now?" Imani didn't turn to look at her. "You're not," Brianna hissed. "You made my cousin look weak. Now everyone talks about you. My family doesn't like that." It clicked. Brianna was Kyle's cousin. All day, Brianna was a shadow. In the hallway, in the cafeteria, she was always there, watching. Whispers followed them. "She's here for Imani. Be careful." But Imani wasn't afraid. She knew that bullies didn't always come with raised fists. Sometimes they came with whispered plans and edited truths. That afternoon, a video leaked. Someone had filmed Kyle getting flipped, but they had cleverly edited it, cutting out the beginning to make it look like Imani had attacked him without any provocation. "Look what really happened," the caption read. It spread like wildfire. Phones buzzed and pinged all over the school. Imani stood in the hallway, watching the distorted version of events play out on someone's screen. Beside her, Brianna smirked. Imani didn't say a word. She turned and walked directly to the principal's office. "Mr. Davies," she said, her voice firm, "I need a meeting." "Another one?" he asked, surprised. "Yes," she said, "but this time, make sure there's a camera." The next morning, the school called an emergency assembly. The entire student body, teachers, and staff filed into the auditorium. Principal Davies walked to the microphone. "There's been a lot of discussion about an incident that occurred this week," he began. "Some of it true, some of it not. So we're here to clear the air and look at the facts." He turned to the giant screen behind him. The full, unedited classroom security footage played. Everyone saw Kyle yell. Everyone saw him shove the teacher. Everyone saw him swing his fist. Everyone saw Imani flip him only after he grabbed her. Right there in the crowd, Brianna's face went pale as she folded her arms. The auditorium erupted in applause, even louder than it had been in the classroom. Later that day, as Imani walked to her locker, Brianna was waiting for her, flanked by two other girls. "You think you're so smart?" Brianna snarled. "You just embarrassed my entire family." Imani didn't flinch. Number, they did that to themselves. Brianna stepped closer, her voice dripping with venom. "You don't belong here. You're just some charity case from the South Side trying to act like you're better than everyone." Imani calmly closed her locker door. "You know what I am? I'm still here." Brianna's face turned crimson. She raised her hand to slap her. The hallway went silent. But before her hand could make contact, another hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. It was Officer Miller, the school resource officer. "That's enough," he said, his voice firm. Brianna struggled. She started it. No, Officer Miller said, shaking his head. You've been stalking her for 2 days, and we have you on camera doctoring and spreading that video. We're done. Principal Davies stepped forward. We've reviewed all the hallway cameras. You'll be suspended for harassment and slander. Your parents will be here shortly. Brianna's jaw dropped. The crowd of students cheered, not out of anger, but out of a sense of relief, a feeling that justice was finally real. That Friday, a note was taped to Imani's locker. It wasn't mean, it wasn't rude. It simply said, "Thank you for standing up for all of us." It was signed, half the class. She smiled, a real, genuine smile for the first time all week. Not because she had won a fight, but because for the first time in this place, she felt like maybe she did belong. She kept her same seat, back row, by the window. And this time, when she walked in, nobody stared. They just nodded. And that quiet respect was more powerful than any cheer.